The House of Representatives just passed one of the most impactful banking bills that America has ever seen. That's going to impact banks, how you invest, and how your banking privacy just was put on the forefront of all of this. But before we talk about what these bills are and how they're going to impact you, my name is Rick. I help you turn daily finance news into daily profit. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure that you smash that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification. But let's talk about what these three bills are, what they do, how they're going to impact your investing, and how your privacy just got a little bit safer. It was crypto week in Congress, and all three of these bills that we're going to be talking about take center stage as the framework for what the future of banking is going to look like, not only for cryptocurrency, but for digital banking as well. So the first bill that we're going to talk about is the Genius Act. Now, what this basically does and allows institutions to do is to create their own stablecoin. Now, we've heard about this in recent news with coins such as the JP Morgan coin. And the idea is if banking institutions want to bring their banking system to a more modern system where they're able to settle transactions quickly, they need to use their digital form of their own issued currency in order to do it. So what the Genius Act does is it grants these banks the ability to issue their own digital stable coin with the condition that this isn't just any sort of coin. It needs to be backed by something, whether that be liquid cash or some sort of bank treasuries. If institutions are going to be issuing these stable coins, they must be backed by something. And so really what this does is this ushers in the next step in our banking transition as we switch over from the SWIFT system to ISO 20022. Which is a digital style of banking. And the idea behind it is banks want to be able to settle transactions as quickly as possible. With the current SWIFT system, it can take anywhere from 24 hours up to 3 to 4 weeks to settle bank-to-bank transactions, whether it be domestically or internationally. However, the switch over from digital to ISO 20022 allows digital payments to happen using the blockchain, and these payments happen as quickly as 3 seconds. So no more waiting for banks to settle transactions. Rather, those transactions are settled almost immediately. But in order to settle those transactions immediately, institutions have to have their own native token. This is where you plug in these stable coins that were part of the Genius Act. If a bank creates their own stable coin, they can now negotiate these transactions in their own stable coin, which is tied to an asset like cash or like treasuries. So what that allows banks to do is have the confidence of doing business more streamlined without taking on the risk of saying, you're trading a digital asset to us that doesn't have any sort of value. Instead, what this does is this ties value to those digital assets and those stable coins to allow for seamless and easy transition of payments. So really the way to think about it is the Genius Act allows banks, institutions, and people to start recognizing stable coins and digital currencies as a valid form of payment now that they have to be backed by something which ensures their value moving forward. So it's not just some meme coin that may be rug pulled or pump and dumped. Rather, what it is it's a coin or an asset that has a true value that now can be used to settle transactions on the blockchain. And so now that these stable coins or tokens are recognized as an asset, how are they treated? And that's where the Clarity Bill comes in. That was also part of Crypto Week. And what the Clarity Bill says is digital assets can be treated as either commodities, and if they're treated as commodities, they're going to be regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. Or they can be recognized as securities. And if they're recognized as securities, they're now under the jurisdiction of the Securities Exchange Commission or the SEC. And the reason why this is important is this is going to lay out the framework for what investing into these digital assets, but also into cryptocurrencies looks like as well. And as we've seen from cases like Ripple versus the SEC, this has become quite an issue in the past. And this should clear a lot of that up as Ripple has gone through a lot of legality processes in order to continue to operate as a business because they have a token called XRP that they offer for investing. But the SEC went after them because they didn't register it as a security. The Clarity Act essentially does is the Clarity Act cleans up all of that water and basically says if we're going to have a cryptocurrency or a token or digital asset, that needs to be recognized as a commodity or a security so that it can be regulated from a legality standpoint. So now what you have is you have the Genius Act, which allows banks or institutions to create their own stable coin or digital currency, so as long as it's backed by some sort of asset, whether that be cash or treasuries. And then you combine that with the Clarity Act, which makes it so that those digital assets or stable coins are now recognized as either commodities or securities, meaning that they're going to be regulated by either the FTC or the Securities Exchange Commission. And by allowing both of those things, you can see how this opens up the door to the potential for cryptocurrency investments. So now with regulation, you plug in these cryptocurrencies, and now cryptocurrencies are going to start becoming a staple of what the future of banking looks like, because now you have the framework for it, you have the regulations behind it, and now banks can create their own digital currencies as well, which makes it so that people can easily and seamlessly get their hands on these stable coins, but also be able to freely trade them at will without having to worry about the risks associated with it and without having to worry about them breaking any sort of laws. And the last bill, and probably the most important one that was passed during Crypto Week, is the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. And I've talked in depth about the central bank digital currency and its potential use moving forward as a method of cross-border payments that countries basically create in order to handle these international transactions. What the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act just prohibited is the ability for our government to actually issue a CBDC. So this is a massive win for your surveillance, because one of the concerns with a central bank digital currency being created is how simple it would be for the government to actually go in and see every transactions that an individual may be doing. So taking all sort of banking privacy laws and putting them to the side for the sake of the government being able to be intrusive on your transactions to see what you're up to. So that's another huge win that is part of the framework that was laid in place during Crypto Week. So you have the Genius Act, which laid the foundation for stable coins and having the backing of actual assets, mixed with the Clarity Act, which now treats those same stable coins and digital currencies as either commodities or securities for the sake of regulation and laws. And then you couple that with the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, which makes it so that the government cannot create their own stable coin and use it to survey on its people. And you've had a hell of a week for crypto. And not only is this a win for crypto, this is a win for financial institutions as a whole, because now we can have the framework necessary to usher in ISO 20022 and move away from the SWIFT system. And no longer will we as consumers have to wait for checks to clear, or for our direct deposits to hit, or for our bill pays to make sure that everything went through. No. Instead, what we can do is we can start using a more modernized banking system, free of privacy concerns, free of framework, free of legality, and just know that we're going to get our money when we need our money, and our bills are going to be paid when they need to be paid. So this is going to modernize everything that we're used to, making our transactions cleaner, more efficient, safer, and ultimately just better. So this is a huge win for crypto and for the banking industry as a whole, as we leave the past behind and usher in a new era of banking with smiles on our face, because we're not going to have to wait for our checks to clear anymore. We're not going to have to even worry about writing a check or getting a cashier's check or money order or anything like that. No. Instead, we could simply just pull out our phone, pay somebody, and know that they're getting paid immediately rather than having to wait for holds or checks to clear or anything along those lines. So this is a big win for America as a whole. And I wanted to update you with all of that because we've been talking a lot about the central bank digital currency and what the future of America looks like. And we're starting to see it take shape in real time. So thank you for watching today's video. And if you are somebody who's interested in understanding finance news, how to navigate and how to build wealth for yourself based on that news, this is the page for you. So make sure that you smash that subscribe button. Other than that, I appreciate all of your support. Peace.